Hey guys, this is pretty tough times. There's a lot of stuff going on. You're going to get heavy-duty inputs into your world, into your minds, and into your ears in particular about what you should be doing, what you shouldn't be doing, what the future holds. So I just want to stress a few things to you. So let's just go through it. The first thing is this. It sounds like a weird saying, but to be frank with you, we're all stronger together. Stronger together means we all look after each other. The second thing is, I would say to you, like any situation where we are running a business, when it comes to business, you've got to look at all your income from whatever sources they may be, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. And then you've got to look at all your expenses, whatever expenses they may be. And this may be just living expenses as well as business expenses. You know, there could be a whole lot of little business expenses, but largely here I'm talking about living expenses. It could be rent, it could be mortgages, it could be family costs, stuff you pay to your mum or your dad just to look after them, stuff you might have, kids' expenses, money to your family generally, stuff that you guys spend just to reward yourselves. It could be, PlayStation or Netflix or whatever the case may be. So let's look at the income side of things. Right now, it's really hard to control the revenue side, the income side, because to some extent, governments will impact that. Largely, for example, a good example of that is governments have stopped crowds going for rugby league. Not only that, the rugby league games aren't even on. If you're a shopkeeper, your shopkeeping revenue, maybe a cafe, etc., is going to stop because of government regulations. So you've got to get a clear understanding of where your revenue is, one. Let's just assume your revenue is compromised. What I mean by that is you're not going to get as much, for whatever the reason is. The next thing you've got to do is look at your expenses. Now, expenses are much more changeable, much more manageable, and you're going to have your non-discretionary expenses, and that is things that you must spend money on, food, and then your discretionary spends. So you should always list out non-discretionary, discretionary. Go through your bank statement, go through your credit card, go through it all, and list it out. Speak to your manager, get him or her to list it out. Speak to your accountant, get him or her to list it out. But get a list and start ruling a line through those things that you don't need to spend money on anymore or you can reduce. I'm doing in my business. Right now, we are going through exactly the same process. All businesses are doing the same thing. That's something you can do. Go through every single line. Even if you don't reduce one of those lines, you don't change anything or get rid of it altogether, you all of a sudden are going to become aware of what you are spending both in discretionary and non-discretionary. But if your revenue looks compromised, or if you're worried about your revenue, my suggestion to you is make sure you manage your expenses. Now, some of these expenses might be getting paid to landlords, rent at home, rent in a business, or they might be mortgage payments to a bank. Now, under the legislation, the government has just changed the hardship rules. The old hardship rules allowed you to apply to your bank in times of hardship, which might be a time coming up, whereby you say to your bank, I would like you to not ask me for the repayments that I'm due to make every month for the next 3 months. So it was 3-month hardship rule. Every bank and every lender must give that to you in Australia for every residential loan, whether it's an investment property or a property you live in. The government has announced late last week that this is now extended to 6 months. So if you have hardship, in other words, your income has changed or you just can't manage, you apply to your bank or go to your broker and apply through your broker or use your accountant, but apply to your bank for relief, hardship relief. And you'll get that, more than likely you'll get it for the next 6 months. There's a queue. You wouldn't believe the number of applications my business, Yellow Brick Road, are currently processing. I've got 30 people who are processing these applications right now. Normally I might have one. So these applications are coming in thick and fast. Don't be ashamed, don't be afraid. The government's announced it, the banks are expecting it, everybody's doing it, there is nothing wrong with it. Apply for hardship relief on your mortgage. Now when it comes to your rent, nothing is worse for a landlord when there's an economic decline, which is sort of where we're heading towards, to have to find a new tenant. That's the worst thing a landlord wants to have to do. Unless for some reason they absolutely hate you and they'd be glad to get rid of you. But assuming you've been a good tenant, the last thing a landlord wants to do is start to have to find a new tenant. They have to pay extra money, they have to advertise it. For every week it's not rented, they lose 100% of the rent. So a landlord will want to do a deal with you. Again, this is about collaborating with your landlord. Your landlord also has the same ability with his lender, if he's got a mortgage, to go to his lender and seek 6 months relief, hardship relief. So, again, you should be sort of trying to run off the back of that. You need to sit down with your landlord and say, look, this is all I can afford to pay. I've got tenants coming to me right at the moment and they're saying to me, Mark, this is all I can afford to pay. I really don't have much choice. I have to accept what I can get. What I am doing is I'm saying, okay, let's take the difference between what you can afford to pay and what you are supposed to be paying, assuming that's the market rent. I'll add that on to an amount which you start paying off maybe in 6 months' time. So let's say your rent's $500 a week. Let's say you can only afford $200 a week. So I will say to you, for the next 6 months, that's the next 26 weeks, I'll add $300 multiplied by 26, and I'll add it on in 6 months' time. You can start paying that off to me. We'll do a deal, work out might be $50 a week. Plus you revert back to your old rent, assuming you're in a position to do so. So you have to start looking at these major fixed costs, these non-negotiables or these non-discretionary costs like mortgage payments and rent payments. So it's also a pretty good time, I think anyway, if you're not earning revenue by doing the things you normally do. So now is the time to be building other things, because you can't do that, other things around your product. So build brands. But at an individual level, you should be looking at improving your game, improving your fitness, improving your skills, improving learning, getting educated. And on top of that, start to build your own personal brands. So make something of your time. You're going to have time now. Obviously, you're going to have every weekend for a start, but you're going to have time now. You're going to be doing less traveling because you're not going interstate, etc. So you need to make use of that time for when all this breaks. I have to tell you, this is not going to last forever. This is not the global financial crisis of 2008, which took years to recover from. This is not the the Great Depression or the recession of 1919 or 1929. This is not anything we've ever experienced before. This is a health problem. This is a health pandemic, which is having an economic effect. Now, my gut feeling is it will return. The economies will return very, very quickly. And once they do it, they're going to take off. So be prepared when they take off. If you can save money now, save money. There is no shame whatsoever in moving back to your parents' place. None. Zero. Do you know, when I was 35 years of age, I set up a business called Wizard Home Loans. I had no money. I spent all my money investing in the business. I had no money left. I couldn't go back to my parents' place. So we had an office which I rented, and I slept on the floor of the office for nearly a year. Slept on the floor. Yep, pillow on the floor. I would work there, sleep there during the night, get back up, go and have a shower. We had a shower in the building, so I go and have a shower in the building. There's no shame in that, nothing wrong with it. I don't mind admitting it. I didn't mind admitting it at the time. To some extent, I saw it as a bit of a badge of honor that I was prepared to do that. If you're lucky enough, my parents, I wasn't lucky enough to be able to go to my parents' place, but if your parents willingly will take you in, it's a good thing. Build time with your parents. Make it be a time when you can actually re-establish yourself with your parents, with your brothers and sisters. Mum's going to cook, someone's going to cook for you, perhaps dad will cook, someone's going to clean for you. It's a great opportunity to re-establish your bond with your family. Look at it that way, not as a negative thing. There is no shame in it whatsoever. And if you save your rent and you can put your rent in the bank, when things take off, you're going to be in a great position to take advantage of things that you want to buy and or accumulate or acquire down the track. Now, the last thing I want to say to you, now this is an important one. You've got to use this period as a time to really build your personal strength. And a good way to do that during these times is not only collaborating with those people you want to do deals with, but it's also a time to look after and help out those people who are doing it tough. Keep an eye out for your colleagues, keep an eye out for your family. This is a time when you will get a great deal of benefit out of actually helping others. So just be aware of it, be mindful of it, be aware of your own self, the way you feel, and don't be afraid to reach out. If you've got a problem, tell somebody, ask somebody for help. There's no issue. Good luck, guys. I know this is pretty confronting. We'll get through it. There's no need to worry. It'll be all over and done with probably by the end of the calendar year. Good luck. Ask me questions. Talk to you later.